typically, not exclusively, but typically in the vast majority of franchise partners who join a franchise, they have developed the wherewithal, and in my experience, so many of them had successful careers and have been able to, invest the sums of money that we're talking about, only to find themselves not succeeding. And from a franchisor's perspective, if you look through a very narrow lens as a franchisor, it's easy to think, well, we've developed a model, we know what the model is, we've trained the model, why are they not doing it?
You've got people who are quite big egos there as well if they've had very successful careers to date. Mm-hmm. And maybe you've got a fairly junior member of the franchise support team who's coming in and trying to coach them for performance. Like, well, it doesn't strike me as a circumstance that's likely to be productive.
And it's such an easy solution to bring, have some training in how to coach with compassion. So, to start every conversation with what's one thing that's going well for you right now changes the whole conversation that follows that. And instead of saying you need to do this or you must do that, it's what's the support you need to take that next first step. So it's just turning the language around. It's not, it's not rocket science, but actually the neuroscience and all the research under it shows that this works really, really well, and you can turn them into positive conversations and remind people why they're doing this. What's the bigger picture here? So yeah, you're having a tough week. Yes, your numbers might be down, but actually what can you do? What's within your control, and what support do you need to move that forward?
Now, I wanted to ask you as well, like what are the characteristics of a great coach, and can anyone be a great coach? So for instance, I think I have empathy, okay, but I definitely do not have sympathy. So, are there any traits that are necessary?
Most definitely. And I would say err on the side of empathy rather than sympathy, because if you've got sympathy, you're going to be drawn down into their downward spiral. So it's knowing how to be empathetic, understanding, and forward facing. In answer to your question, can everyone be a coach? Probably 99% of people with the right training. And there's probably, of that, I would say probably half are called to coaching because they do it naturally. And then, like Graham was saying, you suddenly realise that there's this, all this kind of strategies and tools and techniques that you're using. They've all got names and acronyms and all these things. But actually, if you've got a desire to be of service to people, as we've touched on, you've got the makings of a good coach. And it is all about, honing those skills. So being an active listener, have some powerful questions, know how to build rapport, know how to support someone when they're not having a good time, and hold up that mirror and say, this is what you say you want to do. And look what you're showing me. Look what everybody else is seeing around that. And what do we need to do differently to get a different result?
Before we move on as well, I just wanted to mention the role of the uncomfortable friend and setting in place certain things from the beginning of the relationship rather than, I think, to me, it seems quite hard to transition to this coaching with compassion approach partway through an existing relationship. Like, what needs to be in place at the start?
So that's definitely, for me, whenever a coach has run into trouble, it's because the contracting has not been as robust and rigorous as it needs to be. So it's much easier at the outset of any relationship to say, this is how we're going to work together, this is what we're going to do, and to ask permission to be your uncomfortable friend. And then when a conversation comes up, when perhaps they've agreed to do actions and we're at the second or the third coaching session and they've done nothing, it's then time to say, remember at the beginning when I asked permission to be your uncomfortable friend? Well, I'm going to do that now. And this is what you need to hear. Yeah, exactly. So you can do it very gently. You don't have to be confrontational about it, because actually contracting to do that means that you've asked their permission, and having given their permission, they're very unlikely to say, you can't talk to me like that, or I don't want to hear it, because actually in doing that, we're being in service of them, aren't we? And helping them to achieve their dreams and desires.
I'm not a confrontational person at all, but actually for me, having that approach actually feels a lot easier because it's not as confrontational. It's not like you versus them, or no, it's time for me to be the hard man type thing. I just couldn't. Yeah,
no.
I'm less likely to do it.
I'm always wary of people who say they enjoy confrontation, because why let it get to that stage? Why not nip it in the bud at the beginning and, gently point out what's not working in any relationship, not just in the coaching relationship, but all sorts of relationships.
I don't know, my wife likes a good confrontation, but that's a separate webinar.